The world of Oryx and Crake isn't defined only by the creatures that are engineered in laboratories or the post-human Krakers designed to replace humans. It's defined by what made that world possible in the first place. A society built on walls, hierarchy, and a ruthless logic of profit. Atwood understood something crucial about dystopia. It doesn't arrive in a single catastrophic moment. It grows slowly, brick by brick, and decision by decision, until it feels normal. The future she depicts is chilling, not necessarily because it's unimaginable, but because it feels like the logical conclusion of the trends that we're already living through. This is part two of the analysis of Oryx and Crake. In part one, we went through the actual science behind everything and the philosophy behind whether or not we should try to make humans perfect. In the second part, we're going to walk through the actual society in the book and determine whether or not we are moving closer towards it. So, imagine a world where the wealthy live in pristine, high security enclaves with filtered air and manicured lawns, while everyone else struggles to survive in chaotic, polluted cities, and where corporations are more powerful than the governments themselves. Pharmaceutical companies manufacture diseases so they can sell the cures, where the rich quite literally live in a different reality than the poor. This is the world that Atwood constructs. And disturbingly, it's a world that we can kind of already see around us. She coined a word for it, a fusion of utopia and dystopia, because every paradise, she suggests, is built on somebody else's suffering. Every dream of perfection requires somebody else to pay the price. The heart of Oryx and Crake is the uncomfortable truth that the same society that celebrates its wealth, security, and scientific process is also one that exploits, excludes, and dehumanizes. And it is precisely the system that makes somebody like Crake not only possible, but perhaps inevitable. The physical geography of this world tells the story before a single word of ideology is actually spoken. Society is divided into two spaces, the compounds and the pleblands. The compounds are fortified enclaves where the corporate elite and their families live, people like scientists, executives, and their children. These are gated communities taken to an extreme. High walls, armed security, and carefully monitored access. Inside, everything is clean and orderly. The air is filtered, disease is controlled, and advanced medicine ensures a long, comfortable life. Jimmy, our narrator, actually grows up in these spaces. His father is a genographer, his mother a microbiologist. He is, in many ways, a child of the system. But Jimmy's father makes it clear what these compounds really are. Like ancient castles, for keeping you and your buddies nice and safe inside, and for keeping everybody else outside. So they aren't built for the public good. They're built to protect privilege. Beyond those walls stretch the pleblands, the chaotic, porous, and dangerous areas. When Jimmy finally sees them from a high-speed train, he notices how boundless and wide open they are, as if life there is governed by chance rather than design. Compound dwellers believe that there is no life in the mind of the pleblands. They view the people outside as lesser, both intellectually and even existentially inferior to themselves. And yet Jimmy, despite his compound upbringing, is drawn to the plebeians. He finds them mysterious, even beautiful. In their messiness and unpredictability, he senses something real, something that the sanitized world of the compounds has engineered out of existence. And this is a recurring theme in dystopian literature. The protagonist who glimpses the truth that his own class refuses to see. But Atwood goes a little further. She shows how inequality isn't just social, but spatial, architectural, and even biological. You can see it in the walls, breathe it in the air. It's a choice, not a natural state. The system inside those walls is not run by governments per se, because democracy is a distant memory. Power lies in the hands of corporations, power that is unregulated, unaccountable, and relentless in their pursuit of profit. And Atwood shows us, in chilling detail, what happens when market logic replaces moral reasoning. Healthwiser, the company that Jimmy's father works for, distributes vitamin pills that contain hidden bioforms, hostile agents capable of creating new diseases. They create the problem so they can sell the solution. When Jimmy's father tries to explain this, the company has him killed and stages it as suicide. There's no investigation and no oversight. The corporate power is absolute. Another example is Hapakuppa, a genetically engineered coffee plant that doesn't require human labor to harvest. It's more efficient and more profitable, and it devastates the lives of millions of coffee workers around the world. Poverty, starvation, social collapse, all externalities written off as just the cost of doing business. Even the poor themselves become commodities. In this world, they're used as human test subjects for pharmaceutical trials. They're expendable raw material for corporate experiments. And while this is in dystopian literature, we have to remember that we actually do this. We already outsource clinical trials to the developing world, where the poor often bear the risks of drugs that they're trying to design for the rich. We already have corporations shaping global food systems around profit rather than sustainability. So Atwood is just holding a mirror to what we're already doing. What makes this world's collapse inevitable, though, is not just its inequality, but the contempt for anything that might restrain it. The humanities, for example, are treated as worthless. Education is narrowly focused on just science and technology. Jimmy and Crake both take aptitude tests as children. Crake excels in math, science, and reasoning. Jimmy is only good with words, and his father is very disappointed in this. Language, art, and storytelling are considered irrelevant in a society obsessed with profit and progress. So Crake attends the elite Watson Crick Institute. But Jimmy ends up at Martha Graham Academy, a second-rate school for the humanities, dismissed as essentially a refuge for failures. And Atwood here is making a larger point. A society that divorces technical capability from ethical reasoning is doomed to destroy itself. Science without the humanities is power without wisdom. And in a beautifully ironic twist, the very skills that society devalues, like storytelling, myth making, and meaning making, become essential to survival after its collapse. Jimmy, now Snowman, survives not because of scientific brilliance, but because of his ability to tell stories and guide the Quakers through narratives and rituals. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, maybe it's best to go back and watch part 1 to explain what happened with the Quakers and Jimmy. But moving on. As he tells Crake, when any civilization is dust and ashes, art is all that's left. Images, words, music, imaginative structures, meaning, human meaning, is defined by them. Crake dismisses this as evolutionary noise, but Atwood's world proves otherwise. The logic of profit doesn't stop at medicine or food. It devours everything. Even sex and love become commodities. Crake first meets Oryx through a prostitution service called Student Services, run by his elite university. The institution that is supposed to cultivate knowledge is literally selling students' bodies. Oryx's life traces a brutal trajectory through global exploitation. Sold into child sex slavery, traded between abusers, and eventually purchased outright by Crake. She explains the logic with her world with devastating clarity. Love was undependable. It came and then went. So it was good to have money value, because then at least those who wanted to make a profit from you would make sure you were fed enough and not damaged too much. So, in her mind, love is fickle, but market value is stable. Worth as a commodity is more reliable than worth as a person. And honestly, we see this in the world today, the world of the only industry, the world of the sex industry. These industries push women into them and sell the idea that if you can get a value for your body, then you're empowered because of it. And then the pharmaceutical industry, too, in her book, commodifies not just health, but insecurity. Companies sell pills that promise eternal youth, enhanced sexuality, and perfect health. They flood the compound markets with premium products while dumping the inferior and often harmful versions into the plebeians. Even suffering becomes entertainment. Jimmy and Crake, as teenagers, watch real executions, assisted suicides, and videos of people dying online. Violence is now content. Nothing has intrinsic value, not life, dignity, or love. Everything has a price tag and is for sale. It's in this world that Crake's ideas take root. His plan to replace humanity isn't the product of madness per se, but the product of logic pushed to its extreme. He looks around and sees a society manufacturing diseases to sell cures, exploiting the poor as test subjects, destroying ecosystems, and turning human beings into commodities. So he's not wrong about the problems, he's horrified by them. And his conclusion is brutal but consistent. Humanity is the problem, and the only solution is to start over. So he designs the Quakers to be everything that humans are not. They eat grass and leaves, they breed seasonally, eliminating the sexual competition and violence. They have no concept of ownership, eliminating theft and war. They are corporative by design, incapable of hierarchy. His utopia emerges directly from our dystopia. But there's a catch. For the Quakers to exist, humans cannot. His paradise requires genocide. And this is the dark heart of Atwood's argument, that every attempt to perfect society requires deciding who doesn't belong. Every utopia is somebody else's dystopia. So, from part one, we learned that human flaws are features. They are what make us conscious, creative, and capable of meaning. And in this second part, we see that the society trying to erase those flaws is in itself deeply flawed. A world of unaccountable power, crushing inequality, and commodified humanity. And the two are actually inseparable. You get Crake because you have a society like that. The technocratic dystopia produces technocratic solutions. The corporate hellscape produces somebody who believes that mass extinction is rational. The question Atwood leaves us is, what are we building right now? So, with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all next time.